Welcome to Streams of Income with self-help author Ryan Rieger. For the next hour, you'll hear proven methods for how to live the multiple income streams dream. Ryan is passionate about helping others discover their gifts and start their own business. He's published 5 books, and his courses and group coaching programs have changed the lives of thousands of students all over the world. Ryan's books include Private Label, The Easy Way, Finding Your Grace Place, and his latest, Streams of Income. And now, here's your host, Ryan Rieger.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Streams of Income radio show. I'm your host, Ryan Rieger, and we are at episode 200. Can you believe it? It's been 3.5 years since almost 4. It's going on 4 years. It's August, I believe, of 2019 when we first launched this thing. And if you remember the story, I wrote the book Streams of Income, and I was looking for ways to get the message out there. And so I contacted a local radio station about running ads on their station. And they told me the cost of it. And I'm like, whoa, it's a lot more than I wanted to spend. He said, however, for about the same cost as one of these ads, you could have your own show on multiple stations. I think it was 2 stations at the time. And so that really intrigued me. And I had always thought about a podcast, just never did it because I knew you had to be very, very, very consistent with the content. You just didn't want to just throw something up there and then 6 weeks later, another episode. So I went ahead and said yes to the radio show. I started the podcast at the same time since I was already creating the content for radio. I might as well make it a podcast. Well, several months into it, I was looking at the what I was spending and like, man, just not feeling like I'm getting the return on investment for it. So I actually stopped being on the radio and then just continued with the podcast. And I've been doing it since August of 2019, which is amazing. What's one of the cool things, though, about having a podcast is all the amazing guests I get to interview and get to meet virtually, and some now in person, some now become good friends of mine. It's so cool. And so for this 200th episode, I wanted to bring to you, these aren't in any particular order. I just went through my list of some of the guests I've had over the last almost 4 years, and just picked out some of the episodes, and we've got some clips of each of these guests. And so I'm going to tee each of these up with a short intro about who this guest is. And you're just going to hear some various clips from each of these guests. Now, I have learned a ton from these folks that you're about to hear from. I usually say that I took a ton of notes because I do. I look at these episodes when I record them as like, this is a learning opportunity for me to sit in front of this person who many times they've written books, they've got courses, they are speakers all over the world. And I have the opportunity for 30 to 45 minutes to have them alone with me to learn. And it's amazing. And so that's one of the huge benefits of me having this podcast is for me. Now, I love that you're listening, and there's people that are in my audience that gain as much from it as I do. But that's one of the huge benefits. And I just wanted to take snippets from each of these episodes. I believe there's maybe 10 of them. So this is going to be a longer episode because of all the clips that we've got. But this is a way to celebrate 200 episodes. And first up is my friend Mike Bolton. He's from episode 192. He is with Life Rekindled. And so Mike and I talked about business, marriage, health, and he is now a good friend of mine. We just met several months ago. And so it's amazing how quickly that relationship has blossomed. But he travels the globe. He trains people in business and church how to overcome challenges and grow in their impact and success. He's recently just ran the LA Marathon. He's going to run some more marathons. He had a heart attack a few years ago, survived that, and actually I think it was bypass surgery, survived that, and is now healthy. And it's just very, very encouraging to hear his story. And he's one that I definitely took a lot of notes on, and I know you're going to love this. So here is my friend Mike Bolton.
As you get more successful, people want more access to you, right?
Yeah.
And so, and Debbie and I, my wife Debbie and I have talked some about that. How do you manage your schedule? Because all of us have the same thing, right? We get so the same amount of hours in a week, and you can't say yes to everything. And so you have to be strategic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm pretty strategic about the people that I connect with, and it usually comes as a result of an introduction from somebody that I already have a relationship with.
Yes.
That can
Okay.
one vouch for them, and they know that would be a good connection.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that if I would have just said, and you never met me, introduce me to your friends, you'd go, oh, no, hold on. I take that personally
Mm-hmm.
because I want my friends to do the same with me. Not vet, but yeah, vet.
Yeah.
Who is this person? What?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about who you are, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that can be a Zoom conversation first, which
Sure.
takes block out 10 minutes, and
Yeah.
you go right away. You're probably, if you're good, and you're a pretty good judge of character, you go, this is a good fit or not a good fit.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we don't like people.
Sure.
We love everybody, but we can't make time for everybody. It has to be
Yeah.
strategic to fit
Yeah.
into where we're going. And so you have to have a process to be able to vet people. Now, I'm very social, as are you, and I
Mhm.
like to connect with people, and I have a little more flexibility in my schedule, so I might have a bit more room for that.
Yeah.
But my friend John Maxwell is reading his latest book on communication. You can have access to him,
Mhm.
but it's going to cost you a donation to his foundation.
Yes.
This is not complicated.
Sure.
And so very successful people, they set the bar and let people self-select.
Yeah.
And so there's opportunities there to say yes, but you have to be selected. And when you're met with the possibility that your life could be over, people say, did you see the pearly gates? Did you see the white light? No, I never saw any of that. But I knew this was serious. I didn't think I was going to die,
Yeah.
but I could have.
Mm.
And so I made a decision to get healthy. Fortunately, dodged a bullet. The heart's working good. Lost 50 pounds.
Mm.
And I had to make this decision that I wanted to celebrate my recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And so running the marathon was a gift to myself and to my family that I can get healthy.
Well, at mile 20, you told me how tough it was. At mile 20, it probably wasn't a gift, right?
Well, yeah, you find out afterwards that things are a lot easier said than done.
Yes.
In fact, anything worthwhile is easier, is easier said than done.
Yeah.
But I had to make that decision to go, I want to celebrate that. This is something I want to do. And my wife was there to celebrate. But number two, equally as important, we have 5 grandkids. My wife and I have 5 grandkids, ages 8 to 4. And we tell them all the time, you can do things, you can do hard things when you're fearful, just focus and do things even when you're fearful.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, well, they're going to look to my wife and I and go, well, do you live out what you teach us?
Mm.
And I go, I want to be able to say to them, you can do hard things. And remember when Grandpa and Grandma ran the marathon? Now, Debbie and I are going to run the June 25th Missoula, Montana Marathon together to celebrate our 40th wedding anniversary. Most people just go out for dinner.
And you're going to run
We're going to run a marathon.
Wow.
Nobody would ever accuse us of high levels of sanity.
Right.
But to say to our grandkids, you can do hard things.
Mm.
And so that's the whole idea of this why, digging down and knowing your why. I think it was Viktor Frankl who said, if your why is strong enough, you can endure anyhow.
Mm.
And there are moments where when you're doing what you feel you've been created to do and called to do,
Yeah.
and it gets hard, you've experienced that, Ryan.
Yeah.
And lots of people have.
Yeah.
Is your why strong enough to carry you through? Will you persevere? Because you know without beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is why you're on this earth. This is why you're called to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're gifted to do it. You're competent.
Yeah.
And you can make a difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
You know that why, then you're going to live a fulfilling purpose. What's going on? And so it's kind of like building a house.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how I describe it. Spiritual foundation. I'm a person of faith. So what's the foundation? Everybody's house is going to be built on some kind of foundation. I'd rather build it on a solid, proven, tested foundation.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's parables in the Bible. Jesus told some stories about built on a rock, built on sand.
Mm-hmm.
When the storm, listen, you can't tell a house how it's going to hold up until some stress is applied to it. A storm, an earthquake, something.
Mm-hmm.
So spiritual foundation. And then mentally, how am I growing mentally? What's my mindset? is my mindset growing? Is it open to growth? And there was a great book by Carol Dweck about mindset that was revolutionary to me. Carol Dweck, D-W-E-C-K, great book on mindset, life-changing for me. Probably one of the 5 most influential books in my life.
Wow. All right.
So what's going on for my mindset? Am I emotionally resilient? So another area that I work on. What's my emotional resiliency like? Do I have some level in my life? Or am I all over the place emotionally? Because man, when I deal with my emotions and my emotional baggage, to deal with stuff today, once I did a lot of work in that area over the last 20 years, man, my level of emotions, no matter what comes along, man, I can just kind of ride that out a lot more even. Now there's ups and downs, but it's way more even. Relational. How's my relational peace? Here's a question that here's a comment or a quote that I read. Or a question. So it is, who are the people that love and respect you the most? Are they the people that know you from a distance, or are they the people that know you the best and are closest to you? I want the people closest to me, my wife, my kids, my grandkids, my closest friends, to love and respect me more than people do from a distance.
That's good.
Because they really know the true me.
Yeah.
And boy, I tell you, that's a game changer for me. How am I doing relationally with people? Yes. And then how am I doing with my time and my finances? So those I think that's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think. Oh, physically. I forgot about that one. My physical fitness and health. This is the body I'm going to go through life with. I can't accomplish everything I want if it's not healthy and strong. Exactly. And so I focus a lot of attention on it. That's why I run and weight lift and watch what I eat most of the time. Except when we go out for lunch, and then it's right. That really looks good. I'm going to have that too. But if you don't put time into your marriage, it will affect every part of your life, and it will affect your business. I talk to guys all the time. They look like they're successful in business, but their marriage blew apart, and was it worth it?
Yeah. No.
Nobody on their deathbed says, "I wish I would have spent more time at work."
No. Definitely not.
Would I've spent more time in my family, on my marriage and my family? And I tell you, I always say to people, hard work compounds, but you don't see the result early on.
Yeah.
My wife and I really went through some very challenging times in the first 10 to 12 years of our marriage. And we decided at that point to do a lot of hard work, which we are now reaping the benefits of. Did we reap them immediately? Yeah, there was some immediate benefits. Some of the issues that we dealt with were taken care of, but now the compounding effect, it's like money, right? Yeah. You don't see the compound effect immediately, but give it 20 years, give it 30 years, give it 40 years. Now you're just disproportionately reaping the benefits of the hard work you did years ago.
That's so good.
And it just makes everything so much more, all the success, it makes it so much better because you can share it.
Yes.
You get to share it with somebody. What you are most frustrated in your spouse probably says more about you than it does about them. And that's a general rule. When I'm frustrated with other people, it says more about me than it does about them. Because it means there's stuff that I got to deal with.
Wow.
And I tell you, if you go deep, and I'm a big fan of going deep, when you go deep, you'll go far. In life. If you go deep on the inside, you'll be able to go far because you're more authentic, you're more real in marriage, you're more real in business, you're more real as a friend. You're just more authentic. Yeah. Because you're not trying to be somebody you're not, right? I'm not trying to put on a front. This is who I am. If you came to my house, if all the listeners, we could get them over and had a big party. I know with you, you'd be the same person you are when we have lunch or on this podcast.
Right.
And I know I would be.
Yeah,
because that's who I am. This is who I am.
Now we're going to hear from Jason Elkins from episode 190. So I've mentioned this many times before that business is relationships, and Jason has created a system to foster and nurture those relationships, and it's done wonders for him. So he lost his job in 2010 at a web design firm. And rather than fear, this is what his wife said. His wife's response to the news was, maybe now you will start that business you are destined to start. God told me that this was going to happen. He's given me total peace. We are going to be fine, and I believe in you. Man, that is awesome. I have a supportive wife, and it's just amazing to have that kind of support when you're going through tough times. But Jason went through a tough time. But here was his idea. He decided to implement a strategy of having 100 coffee meetings in 100 days. And through that, he was able to grow a social media company and consulting business that's now in its 6th year. So it's just amazing. Jason just builds relationships and things come from that. My friend Dan Miller talks about the 3 a.m. list, those people that would take your call at 3 a.m. and help you with whatever you got going on. You build that, you're going to be successful. Here's Jason Elkins.
Walked in one morning for a meeting. Boss called us all in and called me into a meeting with his partner, and their lips were quivering just a little bit. And it was kind of one of those, you could feel the energy in the room wasn't great.
Yeah.
And they said, today we're letting you go. We're letting a designer go and making some shifts in the way that we do business. They had partnered with a different platform.
Yeah.
And the platform was supplying leads. And
okay,
if I was in their spot, I may have made that same decision. So hindsight's a really good lens sometimes. So
yeah.
But in the moment, that was a challenging thing for me.
Sure.
I really liked the sales aspect of it because I knew that I was helping people and businesses grow with these website launches. But the thing I didn't like about it was once the sale's over, you're done. It's you spend a lot of time building relationships.
Yeah, and then they're just gone. Yeah,
connected. So we were, even at that time, we were bringing in like newsletter marketing discussions, and social media was just becoming a thing at that time.
Yeah.
So we started doing some lunch and learn stuff, and I loved that. I love the education process and providing this massive value on top of what they were already paying for.
Yeah.
So I had a thought that maybe I could do that. This is literally happening in real time as I'm driving home. I'm not sure what this is going to look like. And then I walked in the door, and my wife was like, "Why are you here at 9:30 in the morning?" And
oh no,
I said, "Well," I told her the situation, and she said she's got some interesting spiritual gifts.
Yeah.
And she said, "I saw this coming," which I didn't.
Yeah.
She said, "I saw this coming, and probably time to start that thing that you've been thinking about, or this other thing that makes you happier with this work." I had been through a lot of startups.
Yeah.
Like I always seem to find, these places in chaos for some reason and go to work for them. And I don't really think the job that I had necessarily was like that, but I had a lot of things that looked really good on paper, sounded really good, but maybe were a little chaotic.
Yeah.
And just having the idea that I made money for all these other people.
Yeah.
I just need a fraction of that to make it for myself.
Exactly.
And I'd be able to control my destiny.
More. Exactly.
So that kind of at the core, that was it.
Were you really strategic in who you invited to coffee? Like people that you thought would be potential clients?
Yeah. Yes and no. And even in my class, I teach this, right? You're going to have one shot, one kills, where you roll in, they have a need, you have a solution, and things are going to work out. You're going to get a deal. But by and large, what you need is a network.
So true.
And even in the staffing stuff that I had done, I realized there was a lot of times that the people that were interviewing for other jobs were really skilled. Some were senior level folks, but they were company men or company women, meaning that they spent all of their time and efforts focusing on supporting that organization.
Yeah.
If that job ended, which they do sometimes without, it's not even our fault sometimes. They didn't have the network to plug in anywhere else. So I really felt that if I just knew enough people, I would be able to figure out, if I just had enough relationships, I'd be able to figure it out. If you think about it, That's not my first statement.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's something that I would ask at the end of a meeting.
Yeah.
What didn't we cover today? Is there any other
Yeah.
questions that you have that I can help you with?
Yeah, that's good.
Who do you know that I need to meet with?
Yeah,
And you mentioned this, you touched on this, but I think it's important. I always start with the circle of people that you already kind of know that are in business or that you've met before. And what I got is I got a sheet of paper and I started writing names down, and then I would call them or send them a message saying, I want to get to know 15 people better this year. And you're on that list.
Yeah.
Would you have 30 minutes to chat with me?
Yeah.
90% of the time they're going to say yes to that.
Yeah.
It's very unobtrusive.
Yeah.
Not like, hey, I'm going to be disappointed if you don't buy from me today, right? It's not that.
Right. And
The
you
opposite of
go
it.
there and you buy them coffee.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you invited them to that meeting.
Yeah, and there are people that that would roll in and like fight me for that or whatever, and I'm not gonna turn down a free cup of coffee, but usually I'm rolling in there first. So
Sure.
and that was kind of a financial thing, right? I didn't really want to have a bunch of lunch meetings.
Yeah.
Especially getting started.
Yeah.
Although my Starbucks bill is pretty high, probably. Well, and I think as things evolve, as technology grows, and as we're being pulled in all these different directions, as ChatGPT is invading the marketing space right now, and like relationships are only becoming more important. I just feel so strongly about this that if we just knew more people. It's one or two relationships that can open the doors for incredible business. The fact that Dan connected here it's changed. It's changed our business. One relationship.
It's incredible. I'm loving going back and listening to these episodes. These are so fantastic. I'm getting so many gold nuggets again. But next up is Vincent Puglisi of Total Life Freedom. Again, now a good friend of mine because of meeting him at different events, having him on my podcast. But he talks about building a business around the lifestyle that you want to have. It does not make sense because most people you have a job and you're trying to create a business to create freedom. But then what can happen very easily is you start a business and now you just created a job for yourself and now you feel stuck in that business. Yes, it's your own business and you kind of can set the schedule, but you still have kind of created a prison. And so business, you want to be what Robert Kiyosaki talks about, where you've got the, you want to go over onto the business side where the business can run without you. And you've got a team, and Vincent helps people do all that and think through that stuff and think about, why am I building this business? Let's build a business around the lifestyle that I want to have. But he's dropped so many knowledge bombs in this episode. One thing he says, it comes back to also relationships again, but he says content and connections. And he wrote a book called, I think, The Wealth of Connection. And it's just like what we heard from with Jason Elkins about the 100 cups of coffee, is building those relationships, guys. That is so key. Create content and create connections, and you're going to be successful. Here's my friend Vincent.
So the idea was, when we first started, so our business is called Total Life Freedom. It's mastermind community in different levels, helping people build a business to create that life of freedom. So I better have it myself if I'm going to teach it. Right. But the idea initially was, I want to create this to where I work on Mondays and Tuesdays. Before it was even a business, that was the idea. So often it's like, and I ask this question of my clients, people I work with, what kind of life do you want? I don't even ask what kind of business they want. I ask what kind of life they want. Because if I want a life where I'm going to travel, or I want a life where I want to live in, the coast of Florida, and I open up a brick and mortar shop in Fort Wayne, Indiana, well, I don't care how good your business is, you're not going to be happy because you're not doing what you want to be doing. In my community, I say, what do you have to do that is important but not urgent? Stephen Covey, 7 Habits stuff. Quadrant 2. If you read that book, that's where we want to live our life, is quadrant 2. Important but not urgent. So we're not putting out fires. We're not scrambling around. We're not stressed out. We're doing things that is going to make next year better. Because I got everything I need today. Most people have everything they need today.
Yeah.
Even if you're not doing as well. Even when I was broke, I had everything I needed today. Yeah. So if you're good today, all that matters is 3 years from now. That's the way I look at it. So everything I do, relationships, how we handle money, how I build things, it's how is this going to make 3 years from now better? That's why when people say, how are you able to do all this stuff? Because I'm always doing the work for 3 years from today, not for today. People get so confused with business sometimes. I got all these tests, got all this stuff. I'm like, it's really just, in my world, it's content and connection. If you do the right content the right way, and you build your network and your connections the right way, meaning not for short-term gain, for long-term gain. That's what separates me from relationships, is essentially a lack of integrity or a lack of long-term thinking in a relationship. I need this now. I'm going to shortchange something. I'm going to screw something up for my own benefits. That's where I separate, right? So connection and content, when each one is its own separate river that flows. I'm doing my weekly newsletter. I'm doing my podcast. I'm putting out free content. I'm putting out paid, all that type of stuff, consistently getting better at it, gaining attention that way. It takes a year, right? It takes time to build that stuff up. But any river, the Allegheny in Pittsburgh starts 80 miles upstream as a tiny little stream. Nobody would ever imagine that that's going to turn to a major city. But water keeps raining. The riverbed goes a little bit deeper. That's creating consistent content. Same thing with the connections. You're reaching out to people. You're connecting people together. You're doing it with character and integrity. You're doing it the right way. That when those two meet, right? That's when the third river, which is commerce, or cash. That's where the money happens. I had a friend that was writing a book and just had this conversation recently. And he's like, I just want to write the book. I don't really want to do a blog. I don't really want to do content. He doesn't really reach out to people because he's just focused on writing the book. So I gave him the analogy of the three rivers. And I said, you're basically taking this book, you're putting it in the third river with no water running to it and expecting a boat to get there. How's anybody ever going to see this? You don't have any content. You don't have any connection. How are they ever going to get there? And he got that. He goes, man, you're right. He goes, and that's why so many books never get traction, why so many podcasts never get traction. They're not doing these things consistently. But when you get there, that's when those come together. It's called the point. Even in Pittsburgh, it's called the point. The funny thing about it, the analogy that I use, like the stadium analogy that we could talk about. But ironically, that's what the stadiums are in Pittsburgh. And so what I use is when you build these rivers to build that third river, which is where the money comes in, where the business is, that's also in Pittsburgh where they build the stadiums that have where all the people gather and there's tiers to it. Meaning they play one game. They're not confused with their product. That's why it's way more individual than, hey, just listen to this content and I'll help you. Well, you can help somebody brilliantly walk through an Amazon business, but what if that's not the life that I want to be doing? If I want to be doing that. Now, Ryan's reputable, but it's like the whole analogy of like, don't climb the ladder on the wrong building. Don't put your ladder against the wrong. So what do you want? Like, talk to your spouse. What kind of life? Like, so we envisioned that. And the word that kept coming back to us, and that's why we built the business around it, was freedom. I didn't want to wake up to an alarm clock. We both know Dan Miller. Dan Miller's been a huge influence in my life. And he's like, I never wake up to an alarm clock. I wake up naturally and I do the work that I want to do. So for me, it's having conversations. It's one-on-one conversations. It's writing blog posts. It's writing books. It's recording. It's all the different things in terms of the content that I want to create. Again, confluence, content and connections. If I have 2 hours of great content creation one day and 2 hours of great conversations, by 11 o'clock in the morning, I don't need to do anything else. Because if you think about it, content's being created. Now let's put it out the right way. Connection and relationships have been built. Networks been built. Great conversations. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that connections and conversations for more content. I'm going to use that content that forms more relationships. It's like tributaries in a river. That's why that analogy works. By the time you get to what your product is, they've already asked you for it. They've already told you what they want. Now go create it. That's the way it's actually,
that's good.
Not that confusing when you see it that way. Okay. But most people don't have the conversations. So my days are spent, I got it from the book, The Prosperous Coach, one of my favorite books. If you want to be a great coach, fill your day with interesting conversations. But everybody says you can't scale that. No, you can't scale that, but you will have great network relationships. You have great friendships, and you will learn more from those conversations than listening to any course. They will tell you exactly what they're struggling with. If you want to be a coach, answer their questions and get better at it. And then take that content and write about it. And then figure out a formula for it to teach it to sell that.
Next up is Blake Hutchison of Flippa.com. Flippa.com is a site where you can buy and sell businesses. And what was fascinating about this episode, guys, is that he has seen just so many different types of businesses come across his desk. And so I was sharing or asking him about, what he's learned from seeing all these businesses. And he has his own really cool business journey and some success tips. So he drops a lot of knowledge, just some really, really good gold nuggets, as I say, about just what he's learned through businesses and seeing other people's businesses, what sells, what doesn't. But this is a fascinating episode. Here's Blake.
First and foremost, I'd say that, I embrace the pivot. So I've worked across multiple industries and done so many different roles. So I started my career arguably and technically in publishing. I was working for Lonely Planet, and my job there was to license content. So the good thing about that wasn't necessarily that the job was super interesting, but the good thing about that was, you learn the value of the written word and how powerful that is as a persuasive means to sell and build business models around. I will say that in my experience, and as I just alluded to before, the fall is actually never as hard as you think it's going to be. And so sometimes it can mean earning a little bit less money for a period of time. Sometimes it can mean feeling out of your depth and, what some people would define as imposter syndrome, where you're now trying to be someone else in a role or a job where you might not necessarily have the skills and expertise. But the good news is that today, to some extent, it's welcomed, and that also there's great communities that are on hand to assist you through that process, right? If you're looking at buying a business, jump into buying a business community. If you're looking at becoming a leader for the first time, jump into becoming a leader for the first time community. So the good news is these days we've got so much access to tools, resources, and communities that can help us embrace the pivot and ensure that fall isn't that hard. I guess one of the things I've learned actually is that businesses are actually not that different from each other. My experience working across publishing, cloud accounting software, an online travel agency, and now a marketplace that helps people to buy and sell businesses and helps them become new business owners, is in fact that most businesses are driven and grown through good quality planning, extreme focus, and really wonderful people that are embraced, encouraged, and advocated for. And so therefore, to some extent, it's called the pivot, but in many cases, it's actually not that substantial a change. So that's my experience. I would say have a long-term plan, but don't have a 12-month plan. That's an interesting one, right? And the reason being is I think that small businesses and digital businesses are very dynamic in nature. And so if I have a 12-month plan with my strategic priorities, the pillars, of course, some commercial goals, and then finally, a tactical plan which enables me to achieve those things, guarantee you that within 3 months, that plan is essentially redundant.
Yes.
So you need to know the journey you're going on.
Yes.
You have to have a 3-year view. You have to have a 5-year view. But a 12-month plan, in my experience, has never worked and actually creates instability in an organization. So what we do at Flipper, I'm not suggesting it's right for everyone, but we have what we call 8-week planning sprints or 8-week plans. And so how that manifests itself is we have a 2-week planning period, and the department heads will, against our overall 3-year strategy, 5-year strategy, and against the needs of the business today, i.e. how we are performing for the current 12-month period, they are asked to come up with a fresh list each time. Now, they can recycle stuff, but it's a fresh list each time of the most impactful projects that their department could be responsible for. Including the dependencies. That happens over 2 weeks. And we refine and we refine and we refine until there are maximum 3 things for each department. That then goes into an 8-week period. And it's not a matter of these are good ideas. We actually dictate to the organization, everyone, that the things we have itemized must actually be complete and have the ability to be complete in 8 weeks.
That's good. Yeah.
People have heard of crypto. People have heard of NFTs.
Yeah.
People have certainly heard of bonds and real estate, right?
Yeah.
But not many people have heard about this idea of investing in an online business.
Yeah.
And so what Flipper has built is an opportunity for business owners to raise capital. Now, why do we think that's important? We think that's important because most people aren't connected to Silicon Valley.
Right.
Most people don't know family offices.
Yeah.
Most people don't have rich friends.
Right. Yeah.
It's just a reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so Flipper does have that network.
Yeah, you do.
And so if we can make it probable for a good quality online business owner to grow and grow faster and become a more sustainable, viable, long-term proposition and contribute to the GDP of the US or any other economy in the world.
Yeah.
We believe that's a good gesture.
Next up is Brian Page. He's the author of the book, Don't Start a Side Hustle, Do This Instead. And he has a fascinating business model that he's created, and he has a course and a coaching program around this. But Brian talks about passive income, and that is kind of like the dream for every entrepreneur. But as you know, if you're an entrepreneur, not much of it's passive, especially at the beginning. But you can put in motion a plan to create passive income, and he talks about how to do that. I learned a ton again from this episode. I love going back and listening to these clips. It just reminds me of like, man, that was so good. But here is Brian.
In today's culture, especially among entrepreneurs, we're praised for our hustle and our grind. And it's kind of like, think of Gary Vee, who says, I work when you sleep, and you got to hustle your face off. And, you're all lazy if you're not, working your butt off all the time. And I don't think there's anything wrong with hard work. It's just that it's the wrong kind of money to be working towards. And if, my life was changed when I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad in my 20s. And, Kiyosaki talks about the idea that the rich buy assets, the poor and middle class do not. And they don't make their money from earned income. And so by definition, when you hustle, that means it's you, it's on you, it's all about you, it's your efforts. And there are ways to make passive income that don't require your efforts, at least don't require your efforts long term. And so I would suggest that this book is all about that, how to create passive income, do it from multiple sources, and then eventually get back your time and also make a great living doing it. There's 3 different ways to get passive income. There's 3 different categories of what I call passivepreneurs. The first one is owners. So I mentioned that I owned real estate back in the day, and owning is the easiest, most fundamental, simplest way to do it. The challenge with owning is that you have to have money or credit in order to be able to do it. You have to either borrow money, which is debt, or you have to have money to put down payment on a house or apartment building or buying a business or any of those kind of things. So for the most part, owning is great. But it's kind of the old model of creating passive income, because nowadays we live in a creator economy. We live in a sharing economy. So nowadays there are assets that you don't have to even own. You can control assets, and I'll explain that in a minute. And you can also create assets from scratch, which I know you know all about. You can create in the digital world things that cost almost nothing to create, but they have the potential to make money over and over, day in and day out. Yeah. So by owning, creating, and controlling assets, you can become a passivepreneur. You can do one, you can do all 3, and that's kind of been my journey. My other favorite one would be being a creator, creating digital products. So digital courses is a great example. Yep. Creating memberships where somebody pays, say, $50 a month to be in your Facebook group or whatever, and you teach them something. You teach what you know. And if you don't know anything, because all I knew was Airbnb, so I started teaching that. But if you don't know anything, that's okay. All you got to do is compile information. So you could be a researcher. And you could say, I don't know anything about podcasts, but I'm certainly going to go interview 15 top podcasters or whoever I get my hands on. I'm going to put all of those interviews into a product, and I'm going to sell it. And I'm going to sell it for $500 or $1,000. So it's going to take a lot of effort to put it together. But once that's done, I can start selling it. It'll start selling, every day without me. I could have a webinar or a video that teaches or that sells it for me. Yeah. So that's another example. You could become an expert in an area. You could just say, I'm just going to become an expert in this area. I don't know anything about it. So there's no excuse for somebody that isn't an expert, because I wasn't an expert when I started. I just was like, I'll just teach what I know. There's nothing wrong with that if you really enjoy what you do, but most entrepreneurs are doing it because they want to They think it's a better path than having a job. And they also believe that it's going to eventually set them free. But the average entrepreneur in America works considerably more than 40 hours a week. And the average entrepreneur in America right now makes $72,000 a year. So they're not getting rich. They might be making slightly more than W-2 earner, but they're not getting rich on average. So if your goal is to get wealthy and to make a lot of money and to have a lot of free time, you got to find the right vehicle. And I would argue that running your own company might not be the best vehicle. You can have a company, you can own it, but you want to have someone else run it and someone else manage it. And focus on building assets that can pay you over and over. Again. Somebody asked me the other day, what's the right amount of money to be, quote, wealthy? And I said, well, it's not so much about wealth or net worth. The number one goal for everybody should be becoming financially free, not rich first, not wealthy, but financially free, which means you are, as Kiyosaki said, out of the rat race. You have enough money coming in passively that you never need to work again. And that is a way more exciting day than when you make your first $1 million or your $10 million. I mean, that's way more exciting when you can be like, I am my own man. I am my own woman. Nobody can tell me what to do at this point. I am on my own, and this is amazing. And you can just do whatever you want. So to me, that's financially free. It depends on the person. That might be $2,000 a month. It might be $5,000. It might be $100,000 a month. But the goal is to get to the point where you're free first, and then you start building wealth and building the next phase.
Next up is my good friend Eric Bussey, who I'm just listening to these clips again. Like, man, he's so good. Like, this is an episode about how to work on your business rather than in your business. It's episode 58, and it's titled "How Eric Works on His Business Rather Than in His Business." And isn't that what we all want to do? I kind of see a theme of these clips of we're taking people from being that solo entrepreneur to getting on the other side of the quadrant. What Robert Kiyosaki talks about with being a business owner, and then eventually also getting to be an investor. And so Eric is a perfect example of somebody that is a business owner. I've been on multiple calls with him. We'll ask him about his store. He has 4 retail stores. These are tool shops, and he's got a private label brand on the Amazon. And we'll ask him questions about his store, and he'll be like, I don't know. I don't do that part. He's got partners and he's got a team, and like he is totally taking himself out of that business to a point where he didn't even know how certain things happen. He doesn't need to know. He does what he does and lets everybody else do it. And he is reaping the profits from it. So cool. And that's where we all want to be. And so this is an amazing episode. There's tons of golden nuggets here. Here's Eric.
Yeah, we all made it all at once too. You know? So there's 3 of us. So anytime we all come to the same conclusion, it's pretty much a done deal and very, very clear. So all of us, we tend to live our lives, praying to remove most of ourselves so we can see the signs around us and see where we're supposed to be and see, where we're led. And so it makes those decisions very clear if we all come to that conclusion, because we all live very, very similar lives. And we all said, you know what, these are the signs. People are coming up and they're wanting to shop with us. That wouldn't be happening if it was going to be the wrong decision. So I'm just grateful we were able to remove enough of ourselves and self-centered, all the, stuff floating around to be able to see that. So here's how I set up my schedule is, a successful life to me is looking at my week and having it completely blank on the calendar, and I think a lot of people get stuck and they need to fill that calendar up to feel like they're doing something. To feel like they're busy and it's going to pay off and it will pay off. But to me, success looks very different. I like to see the empty calendar. If I'm too busy, I can't see the opportunities in my business for real growth. When you start getting out of your business a little bit, you get to see things a little bit differently. So I could never do that if I was ringing people up for 6 days a week. So building a team for me was so important because it allowed me to see these other opportunities that I never would have seen if I'm just in the business. And that is, to me, what the owner, if you look at what in an ideal world, what the owner should be doing is creating the vision, making sure there's enough money in the business, and building relationships. Past those 3 things, there's not a whole lot that I see business owners should be doing, or they should work to get there.
Create a vision, make sure there's enough money in the business, and build relationships.
And that's it. Past those 3 things, bring someone else in to do those for you.
Next up is the cheerleader of dreams, my good friend Terry Savelle Foy. This is an awesome episode. I was so blessed and honored to be able to have her on my show. She's somebody I've been following for a long time. And again, another cool thing about having a podcast is you get to meet cool people. Now, I've worked with her ministry and I know a lot of her staff now. And so we're friends. But I am just honored to be able to bring this to you. Go to episode 123 if you haven't listened to that, episode 123. And she talks about, your dreams and your goals and making those God-given dreams a reality. And those things that are on your heart, she just helps you figure out how to make those happen. And this is such a good episode, and these clips are great. Here's my friend Terry Savelle Foy.
The thing is, you may have seen, I don't know if you can tell this one, but this picture right here is me in France in a bookstore in Paris. But I put a picture of the Eiffel Tower on my vision board back then. And I said, Lord, I don't even know if this is you. My degree is in French, but I said, I'm just a girl from Texas speaking rusty French. I don't even know anyone in France, but I trust you. But I really wasn't even sure, is that God or is it just because everybody wants to go to Paris,
Right.
But I put it on the vision board anyway. And then God began ordering my steps.
Yes.
And of course, now, we have a whole outreach in France and books in the bookstores and stuff. But I found out that there is a connection between your potential, your passion, and your purpose. So those desires that you have, they're not coincidental.
Right.
In fact, the Lord said that to me recently in prayer. He said, if it's in your heart, it's there for a reason. If it's in your heart, it's there for a reason. A lot of people don't have Paris in their heart or helping teenage girls, But whatever God has put in your heart, don't disregard it because it looks so ridiculous.
Right.
Because every dream is impossible when you first get the dream.
Yes.
The vision comes first, the provision comes second, right?
Yep.
So you never have all the money you need when God gives you a dream. There is a difference between dreams and goals. Dreams are like my vision board back there. It has big dreams up there that I have no clue how they're going to happen, when they're going to happen. Some of them have been up there for 5 years. But goals are simply dreams with deadlines. You assign a deadline to it, like pay off the MasterCard, $4,000, and 12 cents, whatever. That's losing a certain amount of weight. That's finishing, a real estate license or whatever. Those are goals that you would set over the next 12 months. This is what I want to accomplish.
Yes.
80% of people are walking around like this with no vision. Now think about this, Ryan. God's word says without a vision, you perish.
You'll perish, yeah.
But 80% have no vision, no goals. He said 16% said, I have some goals, but I've never written them down.
Yeah.
He said 3% said, I've written them at some point, but I don't know where they are.
Yeah.
He said 1% said, I have goals, I've written them down, and I review them on a consistent basis. He said, do you know who the 1% were? Millionaires. Every one of them were millionaires. And Ryan, when I began to hear those things back in 2002, 2003, 2004, I started thinking, if millionaires can do this, if Jim Carrey, Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, Beyonce, they do this.
Yeah.
If they can do this and get results, how much more should I, as a believer, just take this principle from God's word? He said, write the vision, make it plain. Why can't I get results? And so it literally started with something that looked kind of foolish. And I never dreamed I would share this publicly because I wasn't doing any of this at the time. So I want to just mention this real quick, though, that there's such power in having pictures with your dreams.
Yes.
And the reason why is because your mind thinks in pictures. It doesn't think in words, you know? So when you add a picture, the business world, the success world calls it, the law of attraction, or they'll talk about how your subconscious mind doesn't know anything different than, if this is reality or if it's fake.
Right.
And so us as believers, your faith goes to work to make that image happen.
Yes.
I learned a few years ago, we always set milestone goals because milestones, they help you not feel defeated or just like, dear Lord, are we ever going to get there? So a milestone goal, we always set 3 of them. Like if the goal was 10,000 new subscribers on YouTube, then we would say, when we hit 3,000, we're going to celebrate. When we reach 5,000, we're going to celebrate. When we reach 7,500, we're going to throw a party. And then if we reach 10,000, awesome, we did the goal.
Yes.
But we're going to celebrate all the way because it just builds your faith and it builds that momentum that you're going the right way. Keep going. Don't give up, you know? Yeah. So I do that with everything, with our savings goals, everything. You know, our sales goals, we do that with everything. Even with new partners joining the ministry, my team has milestone goals and we celebrate when we reach one.
This next set of clips comes from my now good friend, Melissa Hughes, who has an amazing story. This is from episode 173. And the Lord told her to post videos online, and her very first video went viral, and she got on the Kelly Clarkson show. And now she's actually working with us to build out a social media team, and we help people with their social media, managing their accounts and posting videos for them. She's all about short form video. She said, if you're not posting video, you're going to be left behind, especially if you're in business. But this is an awesome interview. She tells her story of how her and her husband, Kian, moved to England to plant a church. And then he was in an auto accident and then they went through some struggles. And she talks about how just the Lord spoke to her through those times and got her through all that. But guys, if you're struggling in any area, this episode is going to be really good for you. Go back and listen to this. But here is my friend, Melissa.
I think and this is so true. I even find this even now in my relationship with God. I think that moment though was the first time that I was actually willing to have an honest conversation with the Lord. Yeah. And I feel like there's a lot of shame around that, almost not, and maybe it's just me, but it feels like when you say I am a person of faith and you put your trust in God and then things don't go down well. And especially when you're in leadership, you don't feel like you really have the opportunity to be ooh, I'm actually struggling with trust, believing that God's good. I'm struggling to trust him right now because it's this toxic positivity of and even if you say that to another believer, they're hey, but and it's true, right? We need to encourage each other. We need the truth.
Yes.
But I think sometimes for us being able to really come to Jesus with our honest, all of it, he knows, but I for myself, I just could not really have that type of intimacy with him.
Yeah.
Because I thought that he wanted all my good bits. So realizing that God is interested in my ugly parts and the parts that I'm struggling with really opened me up to such a much deeper level of intimacy and freedom in my relationship with him.
Yes.
And knowing that it doesn't change how he feels about me.
Yes.
It makes me emotional talking about it, but we just so much, I think, as a Christian, want to be pleasing to him and do the things and, have our life be a testimony. But when we feel I don't feel that way and I'm actually struggling with ugly feelings.
Yeah.
It's hard. Where we can approach the throne of grace with confidence.
Find help in our time of need.
And find help in our time of need.
Yes.
And I just think that that's so important. And so many Christians don't feel like they can approach the throne of grace.
Yes.
In their time of need, they're I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Or just not really be vulnerable with God. But that honest conversation about yourself and then God and then getting his word on it. Yeah. And then obviously surrounding yourself with believers that are going to say, Melissa, this is real. Let's be real about how you feel. Stop faking it till you make it. But let me really, truly encourage you in your faith. So I think those things have been instrumental in my life, really overcoming. And also sorry, I'll wrap this up.
I'll go for it. This is awesome to me. I love this. I could talk for hours about all this stuff. So go.
Me too. I think the thing that was like, there's something about when God speaks to you, he actually works better in contrast, because you can't have a triumph without a tragedy. You can't like really love someone without experiencing heartache. Like that's no way to live. God gives us a profound life. And I just saw the cross and the resurrection. And I was like, whoa, I've always just wanted like all the happy parts about Jesus, right? Like the miracles, the crowds, the healings. And God's like, that's not, Melissa, no, that's not the Christian life. It's the cross, right? Take up your cross and follow me. It's the pain, it's the suffering that we do go through as believers. And it's the resurrection. And life is better and like it's more profound.
Next up is Shane Sams from episode 189. Shane has actually been a guest twice on my show, and he is just somebody I look up to tremendously in regard to how to build and grow a membership community. So as you know, I co-founded the Legends Group back in 2016. I bought my partner out in 2020, and just literally today, as I'm recording this, it's just been a little over a month, less than a month actually, that I sold that business to one of my students, a good friend, Jimmy Smith. But I learned a lot about being a membership community leader, how to do that from Shane. And in this episode, he talks about building relationships. I guess there is a theme in all of these guests that I'm seeing, is that relationships are key. And Shane talks about the Dream 100 strategy and getting in front of those people who have their audience, or have your audience, your ideal person in their audience already, building that relationship with that person. And it's just a fascinating episode. I always learn a lot when I talk to Shane. Here it is.
I got an email one day, and I didn't plan on being a public speaker. I've always done this strategy. It's called the Dream 100. I think a guy named Chet Holmes came up with it. There's a guy named Dana Derricks that talks about it a lot out there. He's a great.
Dana Derricks is a good friend of both of ours.
Great proponent of the Dream 100 strategy, and the strategy basically for entrepreneurs, which I think is the best strategy you could ever do to grow your business, it's just relationships. Like you serve others first. Like, how can I help other people as much as possible?
That's so good.
And build reciprocity and help each other. Like we go on each other's podcasts. You've been on my podcast, I've been on your podcast, and we go back and forth. And you start. That's the name of the game. And through those relationships, you will help each other grow audience.
Absolutely.
When you are a guest on someone else's podcast, okay, there's always a great opportunity to promote each other, right? And people are going to promote their own content, so you're going to get some publicity there.
Sure.
But like what my team will do, Ryan, now that I'm going to be on your show, is they're going to say, hey, Ryan, let's get you signed up for the affiliate program. We're not just going to opt people in. We're going to tag you. And anyone that buys anything through your link, we're going to send you money every month.
Oh, cool.
That does that. So like we're turning now, my Dream 100 strategy is I don't just want to be on 100 podcasts. I want 100 new affiliates.
Yes.
And then why would someone not continue to promote it if every month you get a check, like, well, I need to share that on Facebook again.
Exactly.
It's a reminder to reshare my stuff, so we can create these incredible relationships and grow our businesses. And it's so much safer than ads and stuff like that. So memberships, the need for a membership came out of my need for a paycheck, right? Like I liked getting a paycheck every couple of weeks. I just hated that it ran out the day before it every time. Right. And we wanted stable income. Like I wanted predictable income. Courses are great. I mean, you can sell courses, but what if you don't sell anymore?
Exactly.
Coaching is great, but what if your clients all quit? But memberships, like if I get a member right now, our average members in our current monthly iteration stayed 12.04 months.
That's awesome.
So let's say I go out and get 100 people to pay me $50 a month. Well, that's $5,000 a month for 12 months. Like I know what I'm going to make in the future.
Yes.
Not what I'm going to make today. It also does something else. When you know that, the reason I love memberships so much is it creates a floor. So like I know that online business has no ceiling, guys. You can make as much money as you want. I've not even found the roof yet. Okay. We just keep figuring out ways to make more if we want to. If we don't want to, we can stay where we are and be content. That's fine. But what a membership does is it's like, I know if I know how many members I've got, I know how many on average leave and how long they stay, I can predict the floor of my business in the future. So if I have a bad month of new sales, well, my floor is $60K. My floor is $120K. I got 200 members. Like, it takes so much stress and anxiety off of you to have a membership tier.
Yeah.
Like, I can't, it's like when Dave Ramsey tells people, the feeling when they get out of debt. When you're an entrepreneur and you have recurring revenue that you can predict 6 to 12 months out, you are free. You're unshackled to take risks. You don't have to worry about feeding your family. And that clarity gives you so much more space to do the fun stuff, the entrepreneurial stuff, to dream and to make relationships and go on podcasts. And you're just not worried all the time, So that's what I like about it. And it's the best entry point into any sales funnel, period. Tripwires and lead magnets and whatever you say. If you can get like a free trial and you get 100 people to take the free trial and maybe half of them keep it, okay? Nobody's going to say no to that. It's free. If you don't like it, leave. If you do love it, stay. And now once you get people in a membership, maybe in the membership, all they're doing, let's talk about time, is watching your course. And once a week, 1 hour a week, you show up and answer questions about your course.
Yes.
And then the rest of the time, you put your people in a place where they can talk to each other and have a community, make friends. All of a sudden, you've got this thing that's bigger than just a course. But guess what happens? People stay 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Some of them crush it. You get a bunch of testimonials. Some of them get a little stuck or frustrated. Guess what they immediately do? Hey, Shane. Hey, Ryan. Where can I get more help? They don't go to Google anymore. They don't go to YouTube anymore. They ask you, the leader and founder of the community, how to get more help. Well, guess what? Well, I mean, for $500 a month, we can work one-on-one. Oh, you now have a whole new level in your business. You've got this higher ticket. So it's the best seed for higher revenue generating things that you can ever have. And it creates super fans, man. You build relationship that has people go out, and your members will advocate for you. Your customers always won't, but your members will.
And now, last but definitely not least, my friend Dana Derricks, who Stephen Hibbert, who's a co-host on this show a lot. We actually flew up to Wisconsin to meet with him for a couple days and learned a ton from him. He's the author of the book Dream 100. He's actually since sold that business just recently and moved on to more copywriting and other things that he's doing for his clients. He's an amazing guy, but he authored Dream 100, which is the strategy of finding those people, those gatekeepers that you can connect with, that you can serve. For example, let's say that you have written a book or you have a course in a certain niche, and there's 5 or 10 people that, man, it'd be so great if you could get on their radar, if they knew about your book or knew about your course, and if they would actually promote that. Well, how do you build a relationship with that person? Well, you invite them on your podcast. You send them gifts. You send them emails and serve their communities. You buy their courses. You buy their books. You get in their community. You serve their audience, and you will start to get noticed, and you will get on their radar. And so we learned this from him. And what's really cool is a lot of these guests that we've had on this episode have referenced that. Shane Sams in particular has referenced the Dream 100 strategy as a key for him building this business. But this is an awesome one. Here's Dana.
The better you get at Dream 100, the kind of more eggs you can put in the basket, and the more you can expect to get something out of it. And with that, though, I will say the number one rule that I say with respect to Dream 100 is make sure that you have no expectations. Okay. And more importantly is no conditions. So the people that do it wrong, they put conditions on it.
Right.
And I see it just makes the whole thing not work. Here's why. Number one, and let me give you an example. I have myself and friends of mine all the time. We receive a lot of stuff in the mail. We receive a lot of Dream 100 efforts, which is great. We appreciate it very much. However, some people do it the wrong way and they put a condition on it. So for example, some people will send, like I got a buddy named Steve Larson. He received a package from someone and it was great. Thank you. But then they immediately expected him to just promote them to his entire audience. And then they were mad when he didn't. It's like, that is first of all, it's really bad expectation to set for yourself, because now you're going to set yourself up for failure. You're going to get burnt out and think this stuff doesn't work and everyone's terrible. But then secondarily, it cheapens the whole thing. It's kind of like a guy taking a girl out on a date and having an expectation at the end of the night, what's going to happen. It just cheapens the whole thing. Right. Yeah. And they can feel that. So, that's kind of what not to do. But, getting back into it, when you can identify really high level strategic Dream 100 targets, let's say for, getting into an e-com kind of example, let's say you're in arbitrage and you, find a killer product that you can go and sell on Amazon or sell online, and that company's not interested in doing it but would love to have you do it. You need to win them over, right?
Yes.
So you can go pretty deep on that, because if you think of it this way, everybody thinks about kind of customer acquisition cost, right? That's a big buzzword in business. So we know, hey, I can spend $5 to acquire a customer that's worth $10. I'm winning. Right. But if you think about it this way, with like that Dream 100 target that has a product line that manufactures a product that you can sell, right? What's that worth to you? What is that Dream 100 target like acquiring them? What is that worth? Thousands, right? Yes. So that's where it's like, that makes sense to actually put all that time, effort, energy, and even sometimes money into building that relationship. Because if you can win over, let's say you try it with 3 different ones, you spend $1,000 on each 3, which I know sounds like a lot, but you land one of the 3.
Yes.
All of a sudden, you just unlocked, let's say, a $50,000 a year in your pocket stream of income. If you ever had like one of those moments in your life or business where you had to like actually stop and be like, oh my gosh, like that is something that makes everything else make sense.
Yeah.
Pretty rare, right? But you've had them, sure. That was easily for me when I read a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine by a guy named Chet Holmes. I got into the chapter. He's got a chapter on the Dream 100 in there. And I read it and I literally stopped and I said, this is what I've done my whole life. Yeah. And I didn't know there was a word for it. So read that chapter 10 times at least. Yeah. And from that point on, what I did was I scoured the internet for more training on the Dream 100. There was essentially nothing, which was crazy to me. Russell Brunson had a chapter, he called it The Lost Chapter in one of his books that went over the Dream 100. And now since he's come out with other trainings on it, but there was almost nothing when I discovered this years ago. And so I kind of went on this what's the word? Challenge of creating all of it. Cause I'm like, this is something everyone should be doing. Yeah. And we have people like Chet and Russell and others saying, you need to do this. This is the foundation of my company. But it's like, okay, but how? Like, how should we do it? So I went on that just sparked this journey of like, I need to, first of all, get intentional about like surrounding myself with people I know that will level me up. Right. And that's a matter. I mean, a lot of you probably are past that, but if you're not, that means getting rid of people. You can't shove, you can only fit so many in your bucket. Okay. That means you got to start taking some out, and that sucks and whatever, but you have to do it. So that's kind of the foundation of it. But then it's like thinking about, okay, where am I trying to go? Who's already been there, or who can help me get there? And then what can I do for them? Right. That's kind of at that moment, it all just kind of made sense. And then I started designing my life and my business that way. Let me first start with why. Why should we do this? So private label friends and guys and gals, I did this really wrong. So in case you're not overly familiar, which you guys probably are, e-commerce, the part of e-commerce that people don't tell you, except Ryan or the few that, are very honest, is that an e-commerce business doesn't really make money until it stops growing. Okay. Because why? Well, the first time you sell out of 500 units and then you're thinking, wow, that's amazing. I sold 500 units this month. Well, what do you have to do next month? You have to send 1,000 units. Right. And what do you have to do after you sell that out? 5,000. So you're reinvesting back in. And then not only that, if you're like Dana and you can't control yourself, and you have a supplement line and you have all these ideas for more supplements, you end up going from, 4 supplements when you launched to 26 in your SKU list. And then it really doesn't make money. So here's the point of me saying that. Why should you diversify off of Amazon if that's your main source of sales? Well, having exited my e-commerce Amazon company, I now know that your business will be worth 3 to 4 times as much when you go to sell it. That's when the real payday is made, by the way.
Yeah.
At least in my eyes. When you go to sell it, it'll be worth 3 to 4 times as much, which is a big deal and a lot of money. If you can get at least 30% of your total sales off of Amazon. Okay. So 70% on Amazon, 30% off. If you can do that, your company will be worth probably 3 times as much when you go to sell. That's why this is really important, because I know it sounds like, oh, cool, but like I could spend the same amount of time and just make that on Amazon. Yes, you could, but you're not going to 3x along the way.
You've been listening to Streams of Income with self-help author Ryan Rieger. From right here in the Dallas Metroplex, Ryan teaches several entrepreneurial courses and group coaching programs to students all over the world. Be sure to listen next week at the same time for Streams of Income with Ryan Rieger.